Hi, welcome back to June Saturday Sampler. We're doing the Friendship Star for Tranquility, and I'm talking about how to actually piece the Friendship Star, which is partial seaming. So you might want to pay attention to this if you are unfamiliar with partial seaming, or if you haven't done it in a while. It can be a little bit tricky if it's new to you. So the first thing that you have to do is you're going to be making 4 each of 3 colors, 12 stars, okay? So of your colors 10, 12, and 5, you need to take 4 of each and separate those because those are going to be the center of your star. I've already made one of number 5 as a sample. And then I'm going to do the sample with number 5. So you also need to take 4 more of those 2-inch squares, and those are going to be your corners. But when you're getting ready to do this, the instructions tell you that you need to take all of your 2-inch squares, aside from the 4 that you took of each of your colors, and you need to do a sew and flip unit, 16 of each color, using your 2 by 3.5 from fabric 1. You have to do that with all of the units. So you can go ahead and do that ahead. I'm just going to do it for 4 for the sample. And I am using my folded corner clipper ruler. If you're not going to do that, you have to sew a line from point to point and then sew on that line. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use my ruler, which I love. I'm going to put my square on there. My 2-inch, I'm going to line it up. I'm going to cut all 4 at once. If I was doing all of them, then of course I would do them all at one time, but I'm just going to do 4 just to show you how quick and easy it is. Now I'm right-handed, so I'm doing it as a right-hander, but you can take all 4, put it on your rectangle, put them in the corner, and these are such small units, these 2-inch squares, that I don't really need to pin them when I'm running them through my sewing machine, but putting right sides together. They tell you to make sure you do it at the correct angle, but this is the correct angle. So if you just pay attention to how I'm doing it, they will end up correct, but do them all the same. So now I have 4 of them for 1 star. I have it set up, my machine set up at my 1/4 inch. I'm just going to put it under my foot, and then I can just run them all through. Just string piece them all at once. And then you can see how quickly they'll sew. So I have them all sewn for 1 star. Trim them apart. And then I'm going to carefully press them open so that I don't stretch that corner piece. So I have a nice rectangle. That one, I want to make sure it got pressed all the way open. I'm just going to press those open, and I have my 4 units pressed and ready to go. And if you observe, they are, oh, that one needs to be pressed open a little bit more. It looks just like the picture here. If you're looking at the picture, that looks just like the unit that we're going for, okay? So this is the maybe slightly confusing part when you're getting started, okay? So you have side 1, and you want to be piecing this with your square, okay? So you have to turn this right sides upside down. You're kind of looking at this backwards with the seam, and your square needs to be up. Your square needs to be facing right side up, and this needs to be facing right sides together. So what you're always going to be looking is at, this is the backward side, just like this. And what you have to do is only sew it halfway across that square. So right to there, and you're going to stop, not all the way across. Okay, so I'm going to put it under my machine. I'll show you. I'm going to just sew it halfway across. I'm not going to back stitch, just halfway across, and I'm going to stop. And that's my partial seam. Okay, so I've only sewn it just a partial seam across that square, and I am going to carefully, I'm not going to really press it, I'm just going to finger press it open. So I just have it open like this. So now, step 2, I'm going to take my next rectangle, and how do I know the angle? Well, I can see the angle of the seam, and that's the angle of my seam here. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to put this right here on the block. That's side 2, okay? So when it opens up, that will be my next part of my friendship star. So I'm like kind of working right here. And I'm going to put this right sides together. I'm going to put it underneath my machine and sew it. And I'm going to hold this to make sure that it's really pulled apart, so I'm getting point to point with a good 1/4 inch. And then I do press these open. I'm going to press this open, and I'm always pressing away from the center. I do a little finger press, and then I'm going to press that open. So now we have step 3, okay? So step 3, let me get oriented here. So I've just put this one on. So now the step 3 is on the next seam. And this one's, so it's held here. The next seam goes here. There's my line, just like it's here, my bottom one. So this is the one I just added. This next one's going around the center. So I'm just going, basically adding around the center. This was my first seam around the center, my second seam around the center. This is my third seam around the center. So I'm just working my way around the center, kind of in a little pinwheel, okay? I'm adding this one on. And just making sure that that seam's all the way open. And then I'm going to, again, press away from the center, a little finger press with my finger. And then I'll press it. And then I have one more to add, and this is why you do the partial seam, okay? Because you've got to add that last pinwheel on, as it says side 4, okay? And again, I'm working from, adding one more to the center. So side 1, 2, 3, and now side 4. And hopefully that makes sense. It does look just like the photograph. Here's side 4 with my seam line going this way, adding it around the center. So I'm going to line it up with the center block. I like to line it up with the center and hold it out, making sure that it matches. And then making sure the bottom is matching. Okay. And then I'm going to press it open. And then you have one last seam, which was that partial seam. Okay. And then you're just going to fold it over and figure out, I have a few loose threads I'd like to trim away just from my stops and starts. So you kind of look at where you started, and I can see that little thread where I ended the seam at the very beginning. And I will stick a pin in here to hold it in place.